Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 285. Is it a confidence issue? Well, Sue Reid shares what to look for. Well, welcome back to this month where it's all about finding your confidence, your true north, and let's face it, with everything going on right now, your sanity. Well, I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, Sue Reid. Sue is the founder of Sue Reid Coaching, and she's a certified J. Shetty Life and Success Coach who focuses on helping people build real, lasting self-confidence. And after more than 40 years in the banking world, Sue retired early in 2019. But instead of slowing down, she followed her passion for writing and her love of supporting others. She's also the author of Building Confidence: How to Thrive as a Shy Person, where she shares her own journey of growing up shy, surviving a toxic marriage, and rebuilding her confidence from the ground up. Today, she helps others do the same, especially those who feel stuck, uncertain, or like they've lost their sense of worth. I am really glad to have her here for this conversation. So let's not wait any longer. Here's Sue Reid. Well, thank you, Sue. It's so good to have you here. I know we talked a little while ago, and I was really excited to have you on the show because of what you focus on, which is self-confidence. And that's one of my favorite topics. So first, let us know your journey, like how you came to be a confidence coach and why this topic matters so much to you, why you think it's so important.
Okay. So, my journey, when I was young, I was very shy. I didn't say very much and I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. And most of our grown-up issues come from childhood, I think. And my father was he had this belief that second place is the first loser sort of thing, like win at all costs. He was trying to motivate us. I can see that now. But as a young girl, I felt that I was being asked too much of. I was being compared to my sister, who was very clever, 5 years younger than me, but extremely intelligent. And I always thought I was the one that wasn't good enough. And so as I got older, so my mum as well, was very strict. She was great when we were very young because she was always singing. We were always going out with her and my grandmother because they were very, very close and they lived near each other. But my grandmother died when I was 8 and my mum was pregnant with my youngest brother. So my mum went into a deep depression. My brother was born 3 months before he should have been born.
Wow.
They weren't sure he was going to live because, bearing in mind, this was 50 odd years ago. And my mum went into a depression. And I can, again, with hindsight and being a grown up now, I know that it was postnatal depression that wasn't diagnosed and bereavement because her mum had died. Right. And she just changed after that. So she was forever telling us she didn't want children. She wished she never had us. And, my younger brother always wonders why there's no photos of him as a child because nobody took any photos of him, which is a great shame. So, so all of that on top of each other made me feel unwanted, unloved, and very scared of the world, very nervous. And plus my mum was very strict. So we weren't allowed out. I wasn't allowed out. My brother was, my older brother, because he was a boy. The girls weren't because you'll just get into trouble.
Right.
I have no idea what that meant until I was older. But that led me to bad relationships. It led me to, I think what I was doing was looking for love, but looking for it in the wrong places. And so I went through a bad marriage. So I went through 3 toxic relationships, basically, but ending with a toxic marriage that lasted 7 years. But it shouldn't have lasted more than 7 minutes. But you stay because you think, I've made my bed, I need to lie on it. And when we finally split up, I was left with no confidence at all. I was completely I felt numb, just like I was like mentally battered, shall we say.
Right.
So I thought, do I carry on like this and go into another bad relationship, which was bound to happen? Or do I make a change? Do I get up and sort my life out? So I decided to get up and sort my life out. So I started reading self-help books. I started, there weren't podcasts at that time, but I started doing courses and reading books and learning and working on myself. Started journaling. So a friend, while I was still married, said to me, start writing everything down because you might need that if you had to go to court or anything. Well, I never did have to go to court, but that writing it down was so good because it was getting out of my head. And so journaling was such a brilliant thing for me. I carried that on. Then that went into meditation. And so that led me to be a very confident, self-assured person now. So that's led me into having retired from a banking career. I then thought, well, what was the thing I liked most about my career was meeting people and helping people. So that kind of led me down the life coach patch. And then what shall I coach? Well, confidence is something I've worked on for myself. So let me help other people. So that's basically my journey. That's how I ended up where I am now.
Wow. Thank you. That makes so much sense. Loss of belongingness and sense of self as a child because your mom struggled, and also just realizing that you were more introverted, more shy. So that made it even harder for you, and not having the social exposure that you could have had because your mom was protective and all of that. And so, I think that, when we work on something and feel the profound change that can come from that, then we naturally want to help others. So that makes sense. And it's a great thing that what it's like to have felt that way and to operate that way and to have an unhealthy relationship and see how a toxic environment can really, like you said, batter a person emotionally. And I think that is true. I think actually we're even understanding what it does to the brain these days, how it actually does damage. So what do you think are the biggest markers, like how someone can really look at themselves and say, I really do have confidence issues? And I ask that question because on the face of it, it sounds obvious, but I really do think that self-esteem and self-confidence are misunderstood, mislabeled, and all of that. So what would you say if someone were looking at themselves, what would they want to look for in terms of not having true self-confidence?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it is a difficult subject because everybody is confident in some areas and not confident in another. So self-confidence is different though, because it's not what you can do. It's how you see yourself, how you value yourself as a person. Self-confidence is different though, because it's not what you can do. It's how you see yourself, how you value yourself as a person. And so whereas confidence, if I'm confident in something, I know how to do it, or I know that I can learn how to do it. Whereas if I'm lacking in self-confidence, I don't give myself the chance to even learn to do it because I don't believe in myself enough to actually be able to step out of my comfort zone. So whereas confidence, if I'm confident in something, I know how to do it, or I know that I can learn how to do it. Whereas if I'm lacking in self-confidence, I don't give myself the chance to even learn to do it because I don't believe in myself enough to actually be able to step out of my comfort zone. So to know whether you have self-confidence issues, how often do you feel uncomfortable doing something, or do you only stay with the comfortable? Do you only stay with the familiar? How do you react to changes? So if you are faced with a change, do you relish it and see it as an opportunity, or do you see it as a scary thing that, you're going to have to battle? Because somebody who's got self-confidence issues, they don't see themselves in the same light that other people do. They see only their flaws. They don't see the good things about them. So self-esteem is your self-worth. It's how you value yourself, what you feel you bring to the world. You've got self-love. So these are the 4 things that I think feed into self-confidence. Self-love is actual having unconditional love for yourself. So I love myself. I know I'm not perfect, but I love myself. And some people find that extremely difficult to say. So again, if you look in the mirror and you cannot look yourself in the eyes and say, I love you, you have a self-confidence issue around self-love. Self-acceptance. Again, do you look at yourself and say, okay, well, I'm not perfect. Maybe my nose is too big. Maybe my bum's too big. But maybe I'm not the clever person my dad wanted me to be. But I'm okay as I am. This is my starting point. That doesn't mean I stay as I am and I never need to do anything. It means that I improve from where I am at this point in time. And then self-belief is the 4th one, which is believing in yourself. So I can't do that yet. I can do it. I've just got to learn to do it. I'm not a complete failure.
Wow. So well said. And I agree with all those points. I think, a couple of things you pointed out were, doing enough healing work so that you can look in the mirror and say, I love you. And I think reparenting the self, if your parents couldn't do that, which is, you and I know, a big part of the problem, like things happened, even if they thought they did, they just didn't. And so reparenting yourself and giving yourself that unconditional love, and also the self-acceptance and the exposure thing, because you said the person won't let themselves step out of their comfort zone because they're trying to play it safe. And I really do think that these days we're kind of looking at these as, even if they're low level, they're emotional trauma responses, right? Staying in your limbic system, not wanting to feel unsafe. And that makes sense. And then the exposure piece, I watch as people expand the box a little bit at a time, either because they have to, because of, a divorce or a big life change kind of throws them to the wolves. And sometimes it's not a bad thing, because then they gather that experiential data. And I just think that your subconscious cannot argue with real facts. Like 52 people liked my presentation, or I keep getting feedback from people how smart I am and all of these things, which is why I think community is such a big piece. Healthy community to give us good mirroring back as to what are the facts. And I love also how you use the word yet, because I also nudge clients to do this. You can probably do that later. Maybe you can try it and decide whether you want to do that or not.
Definitely, yeah.
I just love how you broke it down so that someone can really assess pretty quickly, are they really struggling? And then you just made the distinction between being good at something and just feeling confident as a person that they can take a risk and try things and start trusting themselves more to make good decisions, that self-trust piece.
Yeah. A good question. I think a really good question to ask yourself is, whenever you're about to do something, or you're trying to talk yourself out of doing something, just say, if this was your best friend, what would you say to your best friend? You wouldn't say to your best friend, oh, go and give it up. You're useless at that anyway, which is what you tell yourself. So just imagine that you are stepping outside your body and you are talking to yourself as your best friend. What would you say to them? And you'd probably say, come on, let's just do it. We can do it together. Let's just do it and just see what happens. And that the fear that you feel is only trying to protect you. Fear is so misunderstood. Right. Fear, we think fear is this scary thing, but all fear is doing is saying, hey, I want to protect us. Because, you know, the ancestral part of the brain at the back, the lizard brain, so-called, its whole purpose, its whole job, the reason it started is to make sure you survive. Because in our ancestors' days, it was very likely you wouldn't survive if you went outside the tribe, for example, or, you know, you were going hunting. You're hunting huge animals and the chances are you will get killed, or you'll meet another tribe coming towards you and you'll have to fight for that animal. And, you know, again, your chances are you get killed. So this part of your brain is always thinking, what are we doing? Are we going to get killed here? Is it dangerous? It doesn't understand the modern world because it wasn't built in the modern world. It's your front of your brain that's modern. So your front of your brain is saying, yeah, come on, let's do it. And the back of your brain is going, oh no, we can't do that. So, so you have to convince that fear that everything's okay. And you do that by calming down your breathing, because if you're running away from something or getting ready to fight, you wouldn't be taking calm, deep breaths. You'd be, you know, breathing from the top of your chest. You'd be getting ready to run. So that's giving a message to your system to say, everything's all right. There's nothing to be afraid of. And just, you know, telling yourself over and over that it's absolutely fine. We can do this. Because like you say, you've got to convince your subconscious that you're okay, that you are great, you can cope. But because you've spent so long telling yourself you can't, you've now got to override that. So you've formed a pathway in your brain that just tells you that this is true. This is a fact, because your subconscious deals in facts. So it's convinced that this is now a fact because you've told it over and over again. So now you need to tell it the opposite, and it will form a new path. And there's a good analogy that talks about this. It describes it well. That you imagine that you walk to work every day across a field, and as you walk over that field and everybody else walks the same way, a path forms, and that path gets quite deep because it's well-trodden, the well-trodden path. So if you imagine that that's the path in your brain of that repeated thought over and over again, what you're now needing to do is to walk a different direction and start a new pathway, and then that will get trodden down, and that will form your new belief. Because you can't completely erase an old belief, but you can override it. So my old limiting belief was I'm not good enough. That's what I've been brought up with. And I still to this day sometimes get the feeling that I'm not good enough. Something happens. I think that person's more intelligent than me. I can't do this. It's too difficult. I'm trying to understand technology or something. I'm getting confused, and it all feeds into that I'm not good enough. So this is something I still have to battle with at times. So the work's never done.
No, it's not. You're right. And that's what everyone is saying is, you know, those old traumatic events won't go away, but you can more and more quickly remember, wait a minute, that's not necessarily true. I don't know if that's true. You know, maybe I can try this. And I think it is really important that people, I'm glad you brought that up, that people don't feel like they've done no work at all or they're back to square one if everything falls apart on a given Monday and they're just, oh no, I can't do this. I think the difference as you work on things is your brain switches paths, right? And says, well, nope, we're going to go over here. We can go over here. And I think that's really important to look at so people don't feel like, again, they're a failure because they're failing at this as well. And under stress, we regress.
Yeah.
You know, the brain wants to keep you safe, like you said. And, you know, I just went to a bunch of training, and a lot of it was around trauma. And they talked about how important belongingness is for people to start stepping out of their comfort zone and taking a risk. And that makes sense because, like you talked about the lizard brain, people were in bands or tribes and they had safety around them and they had identity, but also feeling known and connected. What would you say, or what do you say to your clients around belongingness and having healthy people around them?
Yeah. So it's very important to have people around you that lift you up, not bring you down. So toxic relationships of any sort aren't good, and you can't always get them out of your life, particularly if it's a family member, but you can distance yourself as much as possible, or you can also say, I'm not letting that in. So, if a very close family member, for example, said to you, gosh, what have you done with your hair? You look really awful. You could think, oh my God, well, I'm going to have to go and redo my hair. I look awful. This is terrible. Or you could think, that's your opinion. It's not mine. And just don't let it in. You need to be able to block it and say, that's not coming in. Yeah, it's really important to try and keep your the people that are closest to you, or like the people you work with. It's not always easy, but try and stay with the most positive people because they are vibrating at a much higher level of energy. The people that vibrate at low energy, they're the ones that drain you. So when you're around them because you feel drained after a conversation. But community is important, like you say. So, joining any sort of club, be it a football team, supporters, or playing football or any sport, going to a night class, joining a book club, joining a community online, which there are lots of, any sort of membership. Social media, yes, that's good, but you have to be very careful with social media because that can be toxic in itself. Right. But yeah, the more we join together with people that are like-minded, the more we feel like we fit in, particularly if haven't got a good relationship with family, or you haven't got, maybe you don't have family around anymore. Maybe you're miles from home, or you've lost members of your family. It can be a very lonely world, particularly now we travel so much. You can, and COVID is a really great example of that. Some people were stuck miles away from their families, and not being able to see them for a few years, which was very, very difficult on mental health. But then a lot of people did join communities online. I know I did. And that gave us some sort of comfort. So it's finding the comfort where you can really, but not being alone. No, I don't think anybody really has to be alone. I think, it is a choice. Some people feel alone in a crowd anyway, but it is a choice to be lonely, be on your own.
Right. And it's so important for our well-being. And then, without the more positive people around you, you're not getting that mirroring back ongoing, right? Because like you said earlier, you're always going to have those default paths. And so it is even more important to make sure that we take responsibility for joining groups, trying to really evaluate who is around us, who we give our energy to, and, are those relationships good for us? And you have a community that you're building. Do you want to tell us about that? You're one on Substack.
Yeah. So I started writing because, I've started writing in lockdown because I wrote a book, but then I started writing online. So I was writing on LinkedIn for a year. So last year I wrote every day. This is to get me in a practice of daily writing. So I wrote a confidence tip every day for 366 days last year. And that got me into the habit of writing every day. Then I joined a writing community to learn how to write properly. And then that led me to Substack and writing on Substack. So now I have a newsletter on the platform called Substack, and that is called Confidence Matters with Sue Reid. And I called it Confidence Matters because I think confidence matters. So it seemed a natural title. And my idea for that is to help people build an unshakable confidence. And I do that because it's kind of evolved as I've been doing it. I've been doing it since November last year, October, November. And because I meditate a lot and because the last year or so, I've become more spiritually minded, I'm coaching confidence from a foundation of love, gratitude, and kindness, because I think these are the three high vibrating energies. They lift us. So any form of love, kindness, and gratitude lifts you. So if you can build your confidence on that foundation, so if you imagine building a house and your foundation is the love, gratitude, and kindness, it gives you more resilient power inside you. I believe it certainly has for me anyway, because you're coming from a much more loving, appreciative, kind place. So I've got 750 free subscribers, and I've just opened a paid tier so the free subscribers get a weekly newsletter. They get a community chat so they can come on and talk to me, talk to each other. I do weekly reflection exercises on there as well, because I think that's a good form of coaching and it's really easy to do. But then on the paid tier, I go a little bit deeper into what I'm talking about, a confidence issue, some pain point that people suffer with. So things like imposter syndrome, procrastination, perfectionism, comparing, all that, social anxiety, that type of thing. I go a little bit deeper into it and I do a video lesson as well. And then I still do my coaching, my one-to-one coaching. So paid members do get a discount on that. I do a monthly meetup for paid members, and we do group coaching, maybe some hot seat coaching if anybody's brave enough to get you to step out your comfort zone, and just get to know each other really. So it's something that I have come to believe this is my absolute mission, to help people with their confidence. And as soon as I started writing a newsletter on Substack, I felt like I was in the right place. The energy there and the support is brilliant. And I just feel that it's right. I feel it inside me that this is my place. I'm doing the right thing now. Absolutely what I'm doing will help people. And it helps me. So when you help other people, it helps you as well. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you provide wonderful information. You have a newsletter, you have insights and reflections and exercises that people can do. And then if they want more, they can sign up to work with you. And I love the group coaching piece because, again, that community. So it's not just them sitting with you, which is lovely. It's the addition of however many other people in that coaching group to give them love and support. And again, I think, like you talked about, gratitude and love and kindness gets us out of fear, out of our lizard brain and into our thinking brain and our feeling brain, which is really important. And to have that sense of community and a place to belong and a place to feel safe with you as the teacher and, the person guiding, I think is really powerful, because I think we need that too when we're scared and we're vulnerable. And even working on our self-confidence can bring up all the same fears. We're afraid we're going to screw it up. We feel that shame that we already have self-confidence issues compared to the next guy, all of that kind of thing. And I think the more people are surrounded by not only truth, which is wonderful truth and reflections that you have on Substack, I think, but also other people to chat with and surround themselves with. So the brain can change. And you've written a book too. Do you want to mention a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I, in lockdown, so 2020, I retired from my full-time career in 2019. My idea was I would start going on cruises and traveling. And of course, that all stopped the following year. So I thought, what shall I do now? And I had it in mind to write a book. And I just thought, well, let's just do it. Let's just write this book. I hadn't really got a clue what I was doing. I didn't market it. I didn't launch it. I didn't know anything about that. I just thought, I'm going to write down what I'm thinking. So I wrote it out and I sent it to somebody to proofread it, and she made a few alterations or suggested alterations. And then we just published it on Amazon. So yeah, it's there. It's called Building Confidence, How to Thrive as a Shy Person. And it's just my story running through it about my toxic relationships and relationships with my mum and that. And then exercises that people can try out and just different aspects of confidence, really.
That's wonderful. So they can find that on Amazon and they can find you on Substack, which is great. So they just go there and look up Sue Reid.
Yeah. Sue Reid. Yeah. And it's Confidence Matters is the publication. Yes. Yeah, so find me there. That's at the moment, that's the only, I'm still on LinkedIn, but I'm not really posting there anymore. Just totally focused on building my Substack newsletter and just really like putting my heart and soul into it so I can do the best I can. I do lots of lives as well. So I normally do 2 or 3 a week. So you can see me on there.
That's great. I mean, thank you, Sue. And I think really just giving people the wonderful basic information about how do you know if you struggle with self-confidence and how are some ways you can begin working on it, and that they can join your community on Substack and be a part of that and really start working on that and start the healing journey. I think that's wonderful. So I want to thank you again for being here today. And I look forward to seeing your membership grow on Substack as you help more and more people grow, because that's what matters.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
think
just helping
so, yeah.
them heal and figuring out what kind of life do they really want.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I think that's the thing. I think people, they need to live the life that they dream of. You know, there's no reason why anybody can't live their dream life. They might have to work at it, but, you know, let's make some moves. Let's get it in motion. You might have a dream and you look at it and you think it's at the top of a mountain. It's much too high. But when we break it down into little steps, which is what I do, you'll find that reaching that first step isn't that difficult. And then once you're on the first step, reaching the next step isn't that difficult. And then one day you turn around and you think, wow, I'm almost at the top of my mountain. I've nearly got there. Just a few more steps. And doesn't that feel good?
Wow. We're going to end on that. Thank you so much, Sue, for being here. I look forward to having you on again.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Sue, for such great wisdom. If you'd like to keep learning from Sue and get regular inspiration for your own confidence journey, make sure you check out her Substack newsletter, Confidence Matters. It's a space where she shares, like she said, long-form posts, reflections, and live streams. She has some great people on there that she talks to. And it's all built on a foundation of love and gratitude and kindness. You know, Sue's goal is to help you get clear on who you are, what you want, and to believe that you can truly create the life you want to live. So go over there, join the community, ask questions, and connect directly with Sue. Just head to Confidence Matters on Substack. She'd love to hear from you. And tell her I said hi. So today we had a heartfelt and I think wisdom-packed conversation with my friend confidence coach Sue Reid. And she shared her powerful journey from childhood shyness and I think emotional neglect to building a life rooted in purpose and confidence. Sue opens up about the long-lasting impact of growing up in a home where love was conditional, comparisons were constant, and emotional safety was absent. And after surviving multiple toxic relationships and a damaging marriage, Sue made the bold decision to take charge of her healing. And that journey led to her journaling, meditation, coaching, and eventually to today to helping others rebuild their self-confidence from the inside out. So in our conversation, we explored what confidence really means, how to recognize when you're lacking it, and why healing old wounds is so critical to rebuilding belief in yourself. Sue broke down the 4 core pillars of confidence: self-love, self-acceptance, self-belief, and self-worth, while offering powerful insights on how to start shifting deeply rooted negative beliefs. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to work on your confidence, go get some help from Sue. Check out some of my courses in the show notes. It's really cool to watch people change and grow. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.